Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place where we discuss all things USMT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian, joining me once again by Coach Tocayo. Adrian, what's good, man?
Hey, how's it going, man? Saturday over here, getting in the episodes for next week, right? But yeah, everything's fine, everything's cool. Back from my injury, running as usual. So that's good news.
Yeah, I guess we're on tomorrow to go run, so I'll see you tomorrow.
Hmm.
But Adrian, man, we're here to discuss la selección mexicana more so. Why in recent, outings for eltri have fans, specifically Mexican American fans here in the United States, turn their back on eltri. We know and acknowledge the significance of Mexico's fan base, especially in the United States. Right, the passion behind la selección, the amount of money this fan base in the United States brings, the reasons, good or bad, good and bad, of playing most of their games in the United States. I think we've been calling it out here on PPG for a couple of years now after very mediocre performances from eltri, seeing eltri stagnate, that, fans in the United States should stop going to these games to support. And it looks like, at least in the recent matches, there was a major decline in attendance, man. Maybe it had to do with, post Copa America, downer, after Edson getting injured, eltri not doing as well, and Copa America's fans would have hoped, not getting out of the group. Maybe it had to do with, the teams they played, and Canada and New Zealand, not the most, exciting teams to play, especially for eltri fans. Probably eltri fans were hoping to play, more Latin American teams or European teams, but we know. It is a stark contrast compared to the packed stadiums we're used to seeing for eltri, right?
Yeah, no, and they play on two cities that are normally fortresses for El Tri in the United States, Los Angeles and Dallas. And almost every single time they play at those cities, at least you have 50% capacity on the stadium. And that's at least, right? That's a minimum that we expect, even if it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever you name it. People will show up for El Tri this time around. And I think this is something that we mentioned on one of our reviews during Copa America, that we saw there was a bunch of people at the Mexico games, but they weren't packing up the stadiums, like they were not filling up the stadiums like they normally do. Contrasting that to Colombia, that they packed every single match they played, right? It was just odd to see. And now these last two matches are proof that, for whatever reason that we're gonna discuss during this episode, the Paisas over here are just turning their back on El Tri. Is it deserved, or is it just a fatigue fan base from, not only because the Tri not necessarily doing great or hot, but there's also another small thing happening here in the States, that the sports is becoming, I guess soccer, football is becoming highly popular in the States. And back when I moved here in 2011, and you will know more than I do, it was super hard to find good football matches here in the States. It was very odd to see, a European side playing over here, or having a ligamx team doing a tour. Now it's almost on an annual basis that you see, Tigres, America, Chivas, Monterrey having like friendlies in San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, America in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Chivas in Kansas City. I don't know why, but maybe this also has to do with, just creating some level of jadedness on the fans. Huh?
No, that's a good point. Definitely fatigue for La Selección Mexicana because of the amount of games they play in the States. It's not like back in the day, Paisas would have to go, El Tri's come into town, let's go see them, because we don't know when the next time's going to be to come.
Yeah.
They have the contract with Zoom. They have obligation to fulfill in the United States, that they know that they're going to come constantly. I think they have a contract with every year, at least going to Jerry's World in Dallas, right? So the Dallas Paisas know that they'll be able to see Mexico. If they miss them this time, they'll see them in a couple months. But you're right. Back 10, 15 years ago, there was not just being able to see the games live. Before streaming, before everything, it was hard to watch quality games. So, you would have to go see eltri, right? Now, I think, speaking on a Monterrey team level, just because we follow Tigres, we know about Monterrey more so than, Santos or whatever, and their contractual obligations. I know Tigres and Monterrey have a contract for the next 5 years, I think, to play Clásicos in Texas. So, like you're saying, there's a lot more to choose from now, if you're a eltri fan or a soccer fan in the United States. And again, they've just played a couple matches. Well, not a couple, 5 matches, the 2 friendlies, and then the 3 Copa America matches a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and now they're playing again here in the States. Definitely some fatigue there, and I think justified. And I think not just because of how much soccer is available to fans now, but I think there's also that loss of identity for 3 fans, right? feeling disconnected from the national team. I know
Yep.
you have mentioned previously, Adrian, that previous coaches, I know you'll go into this, have more direction, it seemed, right, with the Mexico
Hmm.
team?
Yeah, yeah, no, and I mean, listen, the Tata Martino era was just a complete disaster. But it's been a while since we had a, let alone a project, but at least a coach, someone who will take the reign of the team and become the leader, right? It's you can see that it's very clear that we don't have that, that Mexico lacks that, a clear playing style since the time maybe of La Volpe. It's been a while since I've seen, that Mexico has a very well understood game style. Like they know what they're gonna do, they know what they need to do in the pitch, what kind of style the coach is instilling on them. Maybe more recently we have Juan Carlos Osorio, that at least you saw a team that was understanding what the coach wanted them to do on the pitch. But man, even with El Piojo Herrera, you had Chepo de la Torres, Ben-Goran Eriksson, freaking Tata Martino, like all of them were just either they came in as, firefighters to get Mexico into the World Cup and then do whatever they could, or they were just not ready for that role. Like they were not good enough to be the Mexican coach. And I think this plays a huge part on why the Mexican fan feels that there's a lot of loss of identity. It's
Right.
been ages since we had, a player like Cuauhtemoc Blanco who was able to rally the masses, or someone
Rafa
like,
Marquez, yeah.
yeah, Rafa Marquez, who was perhaps the last bastion of that kind of level of leadership, right? You have, yes, we have Andres Guardado, and we had, Chicharito, if you want to say HH, but they don't carry the same weight as those names like Blanco and Marquez, even Gerardo Torrado at some point, Claudio Suarez, Jared Borghetti, like all of these guys had a very good idea in mind as to what it meant to be a eltri player, right? They
Had that
understood what
aura
was
and
the.
the fight. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I don't think we have this nowadays. And it's difficult. Like my coworkers make fun of me because every single time they ask me to talk about El Tri, I'm like, dude, listen, you don't know this, but and you probably won't understand, but it's really hard to be a Mexico fan right now. It is. It's hard. It's really hard to support them knowing that there's nothing good behind it.
And I think you mentioned the players, the lack of star power. I
Hmm.
think the reason for these, the numbers dwindling for matches for El Tri recently could also be that more of the same in vascoaguirre. They didn't excite the fan base with going out there and reaching for the stars. Didn't have to get the high caliber level that $6 million the U.S. is giving Pochettino, but they could have got somebody more exciting, right? I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen Vasco Aguirre before. And then you have under him Rafa Marquez, who has been doing good for Barcelona B, but also an unproven coach at this time at a higher level, and it's kind of already been decided that he's going to be the one to take Mexico forward again. So it's kind of another. I'm not going to call it another Jaime Lozano because we're yet to see Rafa Marquez coach as the head coach, but he's an unproven Hail Mary, right? Based off of what he's done as a player, his legendary status, and I mean, this could be fans just saying, "Oh, well, it's Vasco Aguirre for the third time," right? I mean, what's going to change? Lack of star power and lack of star power, not just in the players, but in coach as well.
Hmm.
And I think another point here for that disconnect is the generational shift of phasing out that older generation. And like you
Yeah.
mentioned briefly, the newer generation hasn't come in and really claimed that same level of attention, respect, and love for the fans that Cuauhtemoc Blanco, that Rafa Marquez, that Jared Borghetti all had, right? I think the last one probably Guillermo Ochoa.
Yeah, and now everyone is against him just because. So it's a tough one, man. It's a difficult one just because I think there's a, um maybe this is just my perspective, right? We can move on to the next argument, but I just want to say, like, I think though that all generation understood what it meant to play here in the States, what was the meaning behind coming here and putting up a show for the paisas. And I think this younger generation, not only are they more entitled, but they don't feel that commitment to show up and do the best that they can, so the fans who are out here at least can go out and say, all right, we lost, but hey, this was a good show, right? I saw the players running every single minute. They were fighting until the last breath, and I cannot complain because they did what they were supposed to be doing. They did their job, and I don't think that's happening, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
All right. Another argument that we could give for the recent lack of support here for El Tri. I think, Adrian, one that really doesn't need a lot of explanation. The dissatisfaction with recent results and performances, not just this Copa America. This goes way back since 2019. Unable to beat the USA in Nations Leagues or matches that really matter, right? Lackluster, lackluster performances. Even in that Gold Cup that they won in 2023, with the last time Santigimenez scored for eltri. Frustration between these lack of, results, for a better way to say it. Low stakes of friendlies that don't mean anything, friendlies that are played in the U.S. and against uh, lower opposition, and declining results and performances against top tier nations, like you said before, Adrian, that Mexico used to be able to. Maybe didn't have the top talent of the world, right? But they were able to fight tu por tu against the biggest nations. They were able to go out there and give performances that you were proud of, and this is something that's been lacking for years.
Yeah, no, it's gone now. It's gone now. Like the fact that you are celebrating a 0-0 tie with Canada, dude. When when we were growing up, when was that happening? Like
He was
rarely faced.
expected to win 3-0 against Canada.
Exactly. And that odd chance that we faced Canada, it was expected that Mexico was gonna destroy them, right? Just that was the way. And here's the thing: is Mexico just sat down and let everyone else, everyone else picked up their game, and now they are not only match them but also surpass them. And on top of that is like the likes of Jamaica, Panama, El Salvador, all of them are now being more challenging to you to defeat them, right? You're still expected to win those matches, but it's becoming far more difficult than it was 10 years ago for you to defeat them. And so it's just a matter of, I think everything piles up, and it makes sense that when you don't really care about developing talent, you're only looking at these matches as cash grabs, right? And you think that winning a Gold Cup here and there and maybe putting up a good display on a Nations League will secure the fans, tickets every single match you come here to the States. That time is long gone, man. The fact that you didn't have like any good runs on the Olympic Games in the last 20, well, not 20 years, but in the last 10 years, right? I mean, 2020 was kind of a good one, but it's a third place against a bunch of national teams that didn't have their talent because of COVID. Um, and then you didn't show up to the last Olympic Games. 2022 was kind of a huge disappointment for Mexico. 2018, it started hot, ended up the same. 2014, kind of same thing. So all of these freaking results piled up, and you don't have anything to back it up. Like no big game, no big run on the World Cup. You're not even able to retain your title as the big CONCACAF team. It's like it's just, I don't know why Doña Fede and the players and everyone else act so surprised when you have all these results, and you're expecting the fans to show up and keep on cheering for you. Like, come on, man. It's not. I don't think it's fair. It's not fair.
You brought up a good point. I mean, we're I hate to age us here, but we're 30 in our early 30s now, right? And
Yes,
it's the same results from when we were kids. They
exactly.
haven't
Mhm.
stagnant, right? The definition is stagnant here.
Nothing has changed.
Yeah, and you mentioned cash grab. These cash grab. That's a good segue to the next argument here as to why Paisas have stopped supporting here in recent times. The over commercialization of the Mexican national team, and not just the Mexican national team. We kind of mentioned this at the beginning of this episode, and soccer in the U.S. Right? It's just not what it was back in the day. The passion there to just due to the oversaturation of having so many games for eltri in the States. I wonder if eltri played more in Mexico if Mexican national fans would fill up stadiums there. I know we've seen it countless times that they fill up El Azteca for World Cup qualifiers, but would friendlies fill up? We've seen the last match they played in Monterrey, but in 2013, they filled up like 35%, 40% of the stadium for a friendly. It's
Yep.
certain markets, even in Mexico, aren't really, good places for El Tri to play. So oversaturation, over commercialization, and just I think a lot of it has to do with the raising prices of ticket cost, TV rights, venue selection. The La Federación is just not prioritizing fans.
Yeah, and I don't know what's your last experience going to a Mexico match here in the States, but the last one that I had was, if I'm not mistaken, it was a USMNT match against Mexico, like back in 20, man, it must have been like 2015, 2016, dude. And it's been a while now, right? It's been a while, but it was a total disaster. Like it wasn't a good experience whatsoever. It wasn't San Antonio de Alamo Dome. Like things were not set up for the fan to have an enjoyable experience. And then on top of that, they lost against the USMNT. They and this is one of the things that we mention every single episode, almost every single episode is they market the matches with all these players, right? They put Edsonalvarez, they put santigimenez, and then you show up and you see freaking Memo Martinez, dude. It's like, come on, man. I'm not paying freaking an average of 120, $180 to come see freaking Memo Martinez. And then on top of that is not only how much I'm spending on the ticket, but all the concessions, drinks, water, my Uber to the stadium, like it just piles up to be a very expensive outing for just one person, let alone a full family. And so this is also like another situation where Doña Fede is not even interested in taking care of the fan. Like the only thing that matters to them is like, all right, I see the money, it keeps flowing in, but what am I doing to reinvest that money so every single match is a decent experience? Like, if kids show up, they have places to take pictures with, I don't know, freaking cutouts of the players, or you have different like activities around the stadium so people can feel closer to the team, right? There's I don't know, events where you can have fans come in and meet the players, invite them to the training sessions. I don't know. There's different ways that you can make or close that gap, that reach that gap that has been growing, not only through the dissatisfaction and the poor matches that you put all the paisas through, but also to rekindle that trust, right? Because there's a lot of mistrust from the fans to Doña Fede, because we know how they act, we know how they be, we know how shady they are, we know their true intentions. And so it's when you combine that with what we were discussing earlier on this episode, it just an oversaturation of matches. I think even this year we were trying to go to that A&M Stadium match, and we kind of sort of said, you know what, dude, nah, we're not going. It's kind of pricey, and it doesn't make sense. Like, I'd rather go to a Copa America match if I can than to that one that's going to happen in like 3 weeks. And they selected that stadium specifically to beat a record, and they couldn't beat it. So it's
Yep.
it's this is, I think it's just like, the last nail in the coffin of why people are they're not excited about seeing Mexico anymore.
You're right. I hadn't really put much thought to the match day experience that happens there. I can't remember when the last time I went to go see Three in live as well. But I even wore the USMNT. I can't remember either one. But I do remember that it may have been that one that you're talking about, Adrian, back in 2016, 2015. But either, I know we're focusing on three here, but both federations have horrible match day experiences. It literally just is ticket in, walk in, and find your seat. There's nothing to do on, you could tailgate, I guess, but I know when we went to when Monterrey and Tigres play here in the States, that's a much better experience. I don't think you and I have ever really messed with the games outside and stuff, but they have the guy dressed up with the tigre or the vaquero, for Monterrey. You could take pictures with the guy. There's they have those inflatable goals, or you can play games and stuff, right, for the kids, for the fans, for the families. They sell food on the road, on the street, outside the stadium. Even those match day experiences for those friendlies of El Clásico Regio here in the Texas are 10 times better than what you get for match day experience when you go watch El3 in the States. But yeah, I mean, a lot of reasons. I think we're just covering a lot of the main ones, but I think there definitely is a lot of reasons that El3 is losing support, not losing support, but losing fan base going to the games in recent times here. What can be done to win back fans, Adrian, as El3 moves forward here?
I think the easy one and a quick win for Doña Fede could be just playing more in Mexico. And as you mentioned, it's been a while since we've seen a packed stadium in Mexico. I think there's a few markets that they can still rally the people and show up. Maybe they have to start playing in like smaller stadiums too, man. Just like the MLS does. I mean, if you look at all the MLS stadiums, with the exception of a few, they're not larger than 40,000 people. And I think that just makes sense. Why not play on smaller stadiums in Mexico, where that you'll get a packed stadium, better experience, better environment for the team, and they're just rekindling that relationship with the fan in Mexico. I think that will be the two easy ones, the two quick wins that they can make. The other one will be like improving the fan experience, which as we were just mentioning, and the one thing that we all want to see and we all pray for, and we would love to hear Doña Fede following these steps, will be planning long term, right? And on that planning long term, it's also facing more challenging oppositions, right? Going and playing, not only playing back in Mexico, but going to Europe and playing in Europe. going to Asia, playing in Asia. If you're gonna play in the US, at least make it worthwhile, right? Find someone who is two or three times better than you, and even if you get pounded, man, like that's just gonna help you become a better team on the long term, right? Being exposed to more difficult um, teams and a higher, I guess, bar for performance, right? Should push some of these players to at least give a little extra on every single match.
And I think to add to your point, you mentioned El3 has to plan more. I think El3 needs to give I guess, a plan as to what their goal is, their style is. Like you said, like we mentioned in the beginning of this video, since La Volpe days, there hasn't really been an identity for this Mexican team. Create that identity that the fans can rally behind and can support, and get that heart back into the players that are, just playing right now for, because it feels like sometimes, it's an international break. We have to go to the USA to go play a match. They're just like taking it as a break. Give that identity back to the team. But yeah, a lot of good points at the end. I think a lot of fans will agree with a lot of this. Let us know in the comments below. PPG Nation, were you one of the fans that went and supported Mexico in the recent matches? What were your thoughts on the match day experience? What were your thoughts on the three recently, results? What do you think that he needs to do to gain back the trust and the support of fans here in the United States and in Mexico? Let us know in the comments below. Yeah, man, good, interesting episode, bro. We're going to just find us as we wrap up.
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. We post memes, latest news, and shorts of our episodes.
Yeah, so be sure to follow us at your preferred social media platform of choice. And at that, man, I'll see you in the next one, bro.
Take it easy.
See ya.